Hello and welcome to Motor Week. Coming up on this week's show, Richard Hammond drives the Alfa 156 and the new Renault Laguna. Ken Gibson drives the only Beetle RSI in the country, but first I give the Ibiza TDi a bit of a spin.
Seat have come a very long way in a very short period of time. And like anything that climbs to dizzy new heights, you wonder if they're going to be able to keep the balance up here, or if they're going to topple down the other side. Since VW took over at Seat, the car that I'm about to drive has changed in every way, except the name. Starting from the floor pan up, this Seat Ibiza TDi Sport is now the pound stretcher version of the VW Polo TDi. And at 10,750 quid, it's blooming good value. So will the bargain basement Ibiza keep Seat's fortunes riding along the crest of a wave, or do you just get what you pay for? With Seat being part of the VW family, you'd think it'd inherit some of the quality. I mean, after all, there's nothing as reliable as your Volkswagen. And from the moment I clunk the door shut, it sounds and it looks very familiar. I mean, this well laid out dash features some of VW's best switchgear. I particularly like this central LCD screen, which gives you readouts on everything, including the outside temperature. And it's touches like that, plus coming as standard, things like the CD player, the AC, the electric window, the central locking, plus the great build quality and finish inside here that's really making this bargain basement Ibiza good value for money. Have worked hard on changing their outward image too. If you remember, the Ibiza of the early 90s was a box on wheels, and there was no way that could compete in today's extremely competitive Super Mini class. It had to get sporty and groovy, and it did in late 1999, and it became all curvy and slick. But it's all very well having a sporty image. You need a sporty performance to gain real street cred. Well, this might be where our lovely little makeover story falters slightly, because the stats for this car aren't particularly scintillating. This 1.9 TDi has got 90 brake horsepower, and it'll go from 0 to 60 in 12.1 seconds and eventually up to 112 miles an hour. It's hardly hot hatch material, but it does do 57 miles to the gallon. Not that that's going to impress the boy and girl racers that this car is actually aimed at. But for anyone who is working to a budget, this car is perfect. It's cheap to buy, cheap to run, and on top of that, it feels sturdy and solid. And once it's up and running, it pulls really well and actually feels quicker than the stats suggest. This car doesn't feel very agile. Turn into a corner and the steering, well, it feels really rather vague. And the chassis, well, it doesn't live up to the sporty looks. It's not very lively. And as for body roll, well, there's plenty more than with most of its rivals. It offers a good driving position though, and there's loads more room inside than in a Fiesta or a Saxo. The boot offers a reasonable amount of space as well. So for a Super Mini, it ain't all that mini. All the way through this review, I've been saying this car is great in this respect, but it's not so good in this department. I've really been flummoxed. And I think I've worked out why. It's because this car is aimed at the boy racer with its sporty, styly looks. But I think it's more likely to attract the bargain hunter, someone who is quite happy to do 60 miles to the gallon, not very fast at all. So back to my initial question, will this Ibiza keep Seat's fortunes riding on the crest of a wave, or is it just bargain basement trash? Well, I don't think it's bargain basement trash, but as for it being a car of great note, well, it might be actually. To Mr. Brown, who's 29 from Stoke and travels 40 miles a day to work. But as for Daz, 19 from Barnsley, who's looking for a hot hatch, I think he's going to dismiss it really rather quickly. Now, for me, this car is going to attract different customers to what Seat are expecting.
So things are going well for you at work. There are rumours around that there could be a seat for you on the board in a couple of years' time, and who knows, maybe the miserable old "I didn't get where I am today" git who runs the joint might snuff it in the next 20 years and you can make it all the way to the top. But in the meantime, you're stuck there in middle management. But it doesn't have to be all bland and boring. Okay, so you've got to wait a year or two for your company car Jag. But there are some nice alternatives available to you there. And if you don't want the usual Mondeo or Vectra, here's a couple of ideas. From France, the Renault Laguna. Chic, stylish, elegant and comfortable. But for those who want to say something a little more raucous about themselves, from Italy, the Alfa Romeo 156, here for us today in V6 form. The 156 is definitely not a new car, but it's not aging at all. To my mind, it still looks one of the hottest in its class, which is saying something. Manufacturers do not make a lot per car. They need to sell tens of thousands of them to make their money, and they'll do anything to persuade you to tick the box next to their name on your user chooser company car list. The interior has never been the 156's strong point. It's not desperately ugly in here, it's kind of sinewy and basic, but the plastics have never felt the best. Still, it is always undeniably Alfa. You know you're in something a little bit alternative. I don't care how senior and executive you are, this you are going to love. With this car, no key, one of these. Press this button to open car, put card in slot. Wow, space age. Press button, start engine, accept admiring glances from friends, slip into gear, pull away. Oh yes. Both of these cars come in at about £19,500 depending upon the options you select, but that really doesn't matter. They're company cars, it's just a tick in a box. What is important is the huge difference between them in terms of personality and character. Where the Alfa Romeo is bursting with youthful energy and vigour and gets over its rather shoddy interior just by being, well, fast and fun, the Laguna, well, it's a far more sensible and sedate story in here. The interior is incredible. It's very clean, fresh, modern, very stylish, very much part of the current Renault range, fits in nicely. And the exterior as well looks superb on the road, but it ain't no sports car. There is an important lesson here for you corporate types, and it's not one you're going to learn about in your management guides. It's this: if you're going to use your company car to tell the world something about yourself, make sure you know exactly what it's saying. For example, whilst you're cruising around in your laid-back, luxurious Laguna, what do you think the young hooligan tearing around in the Alfa is going to be doing? Catching up with you.
That's all for part one, but make sure you stay tuned as after the break, Ken Gibson drives the £50,000 Beetle RSI.
Back in the good old swinging 60s, there were two kinds of Beatlemania. There was, of course, the unforgettable pop group, and there was this little car, the VW Beatle, which became a cult car with millions of people. But today, we're going to test a very, very different Beetle. We're going to test this monster. This is the incredible Beetle RSI. There are only 250 of them in the world, and this is the only one in England, and it costs a whopping £50,000. Everywhere you look on this car, it just shouts speed. This is a Beetle with serious attitude. Take a look at this rear spoiler. It looks as if it should be fitting on the end of a Boeing jet. And how about these for a really seriously smoky pair of exhaust pipes? And check out these 18-inch alloys. They look as if they could be doubling up for chariot wheels out of the Gladiator film set. And this is what I call a front spoiler. Even the number plate gives you a rather cheeky hint at exactly what's going to happen when you put the foot down on the accelerator of this little machine. But enough talking. What you really want to know is whether this little beast goes as quickly as it looks. Well, there's nothing quite as simple and boring as just an ordinary key. We have got a starter button. So, as they say in all the good movies, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we have liftoff. It's one of those cars that you really need your own private runway to enjoy it to the full. We've been rather fortunate because the very nice people at RAF Cosford Museum have lent us their runway today. Funny thing is though, that although it's got a really sweet growl to it, it really is the best sounding Beetle you'll ever go in. There's just something missing and I can't put my finger on it. It's fast, but it's not really blisteringly fast. And I can't make up my mind whether it's because Beetles just never really seem like a fast car. Funky, yes, but fast, I don't know. I do like the sound of that engine, it really is. Very, very sweet indeed. That's one of the high spots of this car. It's full of lovely little touches. I mean, this is a cabin to make Audi TT owners sick with envy. It really is a real classic piece of business. There's enough carbon fibre and bare aluminium in here to make your own F1 car. Handling for a Beetle is exceptionally good, but that said, it just lacks that something. It's hard to put your finger on, but it doesn't feel like supercar sharp type of handling. Of course, £50,000 for a Beetle is absolutely balmy money. I have to say I prefer them a little like this, small, cute and much more affordable. But I reckon I have found who would want this car. There's got to be a Hollywood film director out there looking to remake a sequel of the Herbie films of the 70s, and this is the star in waiting. I've even thought of a title. Herbie Goes Absolutely Bonkers.
The Lotus Esprit has been around for 25 years now, but the Giorgetto Giugiaro shape is almost a classic.
Hang on a minute.
And a few years ago, this car's got an infusion of power with a beautiful
V8s, they're all... Viewers, you want one of these? An Exige, lightweight, carbon fibre, highly tuned engines.
Well, if you think that's so good, there's only one way to settle this, out there on the track.
On the track, eh? Sounds like fighting talk to me.
Let's see how it goes. So the two contenders in the silver corner, the latest Lotus Esprit. Twin turbos, 3.5 litre V8 Lotus engine, 350 brake horsepower. Handling to die for, huge brakes, beautifully trimmed inside, and a superb CD system and air conditioning.
In the orange corner, it's the Lotus Exige, based on the Elise, but after a dose of steroids, 190 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in just over 4.5 seconds, handling to die for, and with more attitude than Mike Tyson after a bad day at the office. Right then, Chris, are you sure you want to do this? Your last chance to pull out, mate.
I'm trembling in my racing boots, you know. Now, don't forget what I told you, this is almost a full racing car. Don't back off at the chicane, throw it into the hairpin, catch the tail, power it out. You all right?
I know what I'm doing, mate. Here we go. Come on, let's go.
Right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
So here we go then.
Call that a racing start.
First off, we've got the very big straight. And I guess the idea here is just cane it. I'm coming down here, the chicane's looming and I can just see a big wall of tyres. There we go. Now the instructor said something about taking it nice and smooth through here. Whip, whip. Oh, so far so good.
I can't hear much tyre squeal down there. Round the bottom bend.
And here we go, turning. Now I was turning in way too early on this one. Oh, look at that. About halfway round. Oh, Goffey, you're going to have your work cut out for this one, lad.
Come on, Rob, where are you?
Oh, then my seat moved. It's not the only thing that moved either. Push it round. Oh, that's one done. Here we go. Oh! And right over for this one. Oh, what's my time going to be? What's my time going to be? Oh, round, and... Hey, there we go. Keep my dust, Chris Goffey. What was the time?
1 minute 16 seconds.
You're not going to beat that, you know.
You should.
In your big old V8 tank.
In a car like this, you should be ashamed of yourself.
You can't beat lightweight in youth, Chris. That's what my mother always said. Right then, Chris, 1 minute 15 to beat. Now, because it's you and because I like you, I'm going to let you pull out at this point to save embarrassment, because the car and, well, maybe a little bit past it.
Bit grey, do you think, around the edges?
I don't like to say, yeah, basically, Chris.
This is smooth power. None of this lightweight construction and screaming engines, just smooth, brute power.
I hear what you're saying, mate, but in 3 minutes when you come past, I won't be here. I'll have gone home to Manchester. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go!
Right, trying a bit harder now. Back onto the straight.
Right, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. He's out of the chicane, which is good.
80, 90, 100, 110, heading for the chicane, 120, backing off, far too early. I should have kept my foot in a lot more.
Oh, he's caning it.
Down a gear for this long hairpin. Feel the back step out there. Back on the power. Much too slow through there, 80, 90, but I must have beaten his time. Oh, I'm getting old and chicken. Look at this, backing off far too early here for this gentle curve. Bounce the car on the way in, on the brakes, get the speed down. In we go, round to the clipping point, power on.
Pop a tyre, slow down. Oh my God. That's going to slow him down and... Oh no! 1 minute 4. Not one word, not one. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Well done. 1 minute 4. Lucky.
1 minute 4?
Yeah.
Well, you see, you don't like to throw these things around like a hooligan. It's an executive express, just smooth progress. That's the answer to it. And you guys who go roaring around, I mean...
Well done then, mate. You beat me fairly and squarely in the end. Perhaps a bit too much of that for me, but 12 seconds isn't that much of a difference, is it, on this circuit?
Well, to be fair, around here, 12 seconds is a lifetime. I mean, I could get even more grey waiting for you to come round.
Fair enough. It was good fun though, wasn't it?
They're brilliant cars, aren't they?
Awesome.
They handle so well. I mean, you know, it's just enormous fun round this test track.
Yeah. What a day.
Excellent. Brilliant day.
So tell me again about this apex lark.
Well, you throw the car in, as you feel the back end start to go, catch it, floor it, boing, out the bend.
A few weeks ago, we showed you the highlights of the Frankfurt Motor Show. Next week, we're getting all oriental at the Tokyo Motor Show. See you then.